What's going on, guys? I'm Tyler, and I'm here to let you know that 3,000 Years of Longing is no perfect movie. And in 3,000 Years of Longing, a mythology scholar played by Tilda Swinton, who is off in a press conference in Istanbul, comes across a djinn in a bottle played by Idris Elba, who of course is insistent that he grant her free wishes in exchange for his freedom. But because of her experience in her preferred field, she's obviously skeptical that he may be a trickster. So, in an attempt to persuade her, he decides to tell his life story of how he was imprisoned in this bottle, the 3 times that he was summoned over the course of 3,000 years, and the tragic consequences that came from the wishes that his masters demanded from him. Now, on my buddy Josh's channel, at the beginning of this year, we did a video going through the 2022 roster on movies that we were excited for, ones we never heard about, and ones we thought would just be dead on arrival. And we were both really surprised that George Miller, of all people, made a movie during the pandemic with barely anyone talking about it. But once we heard that Miller was going to direct a dark fantasy film, we read the synopsis and that was it. Didn't see any trailers, didn't see any pictures, just started to imagine the possibilities that Miller could come up with. And when I finally saw this movie, it took me by surprise even more. This is hands down one of the best movies I've seen all year. And the nicest thing I can say about 3,000 Years of Longing is that it takes story beats that we've seen in previous movies, movies that have very simple but still identifiable themes, characters, and messages, and it's presented in a way that feels distinctly its own. If I were to compare this movie to anything else, I would say that it's a cross between Forrest Gump and Tarsem Singh's The Fall. Movies where the stories within the film are really what move the character development, because our main characters in each of those films has to become a storyteller to someone else in order to heal from their own tragic past and become much stronger, more confident people, and in the process teach their own audience members to be more grateful for what they have in their own lives. And that's a really difficult thing for a filmmaker to do for 3 specific reasons. For one, the stories within the past have to be so much larger in life, feel so adventurous, and have such high stakes that just hearing someone tell these stories in vivid detail without any visuals whatsoever, without even writing it down, has to instantly hook you. The past and present storylines have to be equally engaging so that when they cut back and forth, the audience doesn't go, "Oh, come on, we were enjoying this one part. We want to see the other side of it." No, the past and the present have to be equally interesting and equally emotionally heartfelt. And the third one being, you have to compensate for how much exposition you're using within the story while still telling it as visually as possible. Here, George Miller films each scene in as long a take as possible, kind of in a Spielberg fashion where he takes one scene but breaks it down into multiple shot compositions, so every time the camera changes a position as it's moving, it'll feel like a cutaway. Or he'll film a scene within one static shot where the actors are in the foreground and the background, so our eyes are constantly moving back and forth without having to rely on standard coverage. He even incorporates some of these Sam Raimi style POV tracking shots of the djinn trying to stalk potential masters who respond to his presence, even though they can't see him. They can only get the sense that they're being followed by something. And it makes so many one-off moments within this movie feel so much more magical and awe-inspiring because it does something that a lot of Spielberg wonders don't do, which is incorporate a lot of CGI effects, or at least they didn't used to. But there are so many moments where just in one shot, the genie will discover what a television is by pulling someone who's speaking on TV out of the television and into the hotel room, and the person is completely aware that they've been brought through the TV because they're looking around going, "Hey, this isn't where I was before. What the fuck is going on?" Or Idris Elba will start off as a giant, but his hand will actually grab Tilda Swinton by the shoulder, and you can tell that she's actually being tugged by something, but it looks like she's actually being grabbed by a hand. Or in this one flashback where, as Elba is mourning the loss of a previous master and he is holding them in his arms, he completely disintegrates within one shot. The effects, the scene transitions, and the editing were just so... They were flawless, in my opinion. The effects were absolutely incredible, and when they're incorporated to portray the mythos of the Ottoman Empire, because that's where a large majority of the flashbacks take place, the atmosphere, the mythology that it brings to life is just absolutely imaginative and magical. That's the best way I can describe this. There's one scene where a musician has this instrument where, let's just say that it has a mind of its own. My jaw was on the floor because I had never seen anything like it. I don't know if it's part of the mythology, but even if it wasn't, that's still a fantastic visual to bring to life. It's such a small little detail that makes the world that the Djinn used to live in feel so awe-inspiring, and you wish that magic could exist in real life as well. But the movie doesn't rely on CGI effects in order to make it feel grand and cinematic. It still features a lot of practical sets, costume design that is beautiful and vibrantly colorful, all of which are portrayed in these massive wide shots that make the scope feel all the more epic. It blends the equal amount of practical and CGI effects that equally feel integral to the story, just like the present and past storylines have to be equally and emotionally engaging. But there was one question that I had throughout the film, even though I was enjoying it, where I noticed there were so many story beats that were moved forward through Idris Elba's monologues, but I couldn't figure out why it still felt like it was a visually told movie. And I think the answer to that is all of the other actors whose stories that Elba is telling, they have to communicate their performances entirely on facial expressions and body language. They get maybe a handful of lines of dialogue at best. But what's so great about these performances is even when Elba isn't narrating the story, you can still understand their character arcs, what their motivations are, and the emotions that they're feeling within each scene without any dialogue whatsoever. All of these actors were terrific, especially the actress who plays the last master before Swinton. She was fantastic. She easily had the most engaging past storyline, and I won't explain why, but it's the type of thing where, as you compare his past relationship with the one he's forging with Swinton, you get the sense that his past relationship is something that he's trying to repent for, and this character is the type of woman that Swinton is afraid of becoming should she give in to the wishes that the Djinn is so desperately demanding that he grant towards her. But like Forrest Gump and The Fall, the style of this movie, as great as it is, would amount to absolutely nothing if we didn't have a great main character to root for and identify with. And in my opinion, this is hands down one of the best performances I've ever seen from Idris Elba. It's certainly a character that stands out the most amongst his career. He's played stuff like this before to an extent, but whether he's a hero, a villain, or in between, Elba is known for being a tough guy, for being an ultimate badass. As the Djinn, Elba has to be considerably more soft-spoken and subdued in his mannerisms, which is something that I'm not really used to seeing. Like I said, he's done other stuff like that before, but nothing as impactful as this film. What's really interesting about his character is that when you see the flashbacks, you do get the sense that he is a fleshed out character. He's gotten to know his previous masters personally and identifies with their struggles, but every time they have fallen under his care and he becomes imprisoned for hundreds of years on end, he's had a considerable amount of time to think about the mistakes that he's made. And every time he's summoned once again, he wants to take those mistakes and learn in order to try and prevent his masters as best as he can from wishing for things that won't work out for them in the end. But the movie makes the wise choice of leaving it a mystery whether or not these stories actually happened, whether or not he's actually telling the truth to Tilda Swinton. And even though Swinton is a literary scholar with lots of experience in the mythos of djinns and is constantly skeptical of his intentions, she's still emotionally an easy target for him because while she does have a select few friends who do want what's best for her, she is desperately lonely in life, but she doesn't want to admit to it because all of the previous hardships that she's had in her life have come from forging bonds with other people. And it's explained in great detail in this one flashback that makes great use of live action and animation in a way that I haven't seen done in years. She's gotten the sense that every time she's failed, it's because she let her guard down. She became friends with someone and ultimately she either got betrayed or it just didn't work out. But the more she spends time listening to the stories the Djinn is telling and gives him the benefit of a doubt, she does consider the possibility that while it may be hard and can lead to tragedy, human beings are social animals. We need interaction in order to grow as people. And even if a past relationship doesn't work out, you can still take what worked from that previous relationship while also knowing what to do better the next time you try to become friends with somebody. It's a great dynamic where the Djinn and Swinton's character equally have as much to learn from one another. The only real downside I have with 3,000 Years of Longing is that there are so many times throughout the last 20 minutes where it could have ended there and it would have been absolutely perfect. There's this one trippy visual where the camera actually zooms in to Tilda Swinton's eye as it fades to black, and I'm just sitting there wondering, oh my god, what's going to happen to her? The wishes that she asked for, are they going to come true? Are they going to work out for her? What's going to happen to the Djinn? And then it'll fade back in, and it'll explain every question that I just had, and I can't say that it technically was a bad scene by any means. It still leads to a lot of great character moments, but it just took the fun out of the ending. I would have liked a little bit more ambiguity or tragedy that came with it, and there were so many times where it fades to black, you think something tragic has happened, and you just sit there going, wow, that was a great experience, and then it'll fade back in, and I just sat there and went, okay, well, the first time wasn't so bad, and this time wasn't so bad. Are you guys gonna do the exact same bait and switch? Yep, you are. I mean, this is still good, but right before, it would have been perfectly fine. And the ending itself, as much as I ask for ambiguity, I don't really understand the actual rules of the ending. It revolves around some Deus Ex Machina where the actors are explaining it by whispering so quietly that even the surround sound speakers couldn't tell me what they were saying. So I'm not sure if that was a problem with the theater or the movie itself, but nevertheless, 3,000 Years of Longing is a movie that demands to be seen on the big screen for its massive ambition, its incredible scope, the cinematography, the direction, the set design, the costume design, the fantastic visual effects. This better get a nomination for visual effects. I would love it if it even won, and especially for the performances between Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba, who, I gotta say, Idris Elba is just knocking it out of the park in 2022. It's insane, but for all of those reasons, I'm gonna give 3,000 Years of Longing a 4 out of 5. Please, please give this movie a chance. See it in a theater as quick as you can, because even if you think the movie is there are so many moments where just seeing it on the big screen, it'll be worth the price of admission alone. Guys, thanks as always for watching. If you have seen 3,000 Years of Longing, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. Be sure to stay tuned for more reviews, and be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.